Mr. President, BGS members, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to the O'Neill farm in North Tyrone. To my right is County Donegal, and over my shoulder is Londonderry, a very scenic part of the world, but you're on a farm that makes exceptionally good use of grass, both grazed and for quality silage. Also, when you're on this virtual tour, you'll have an opportunity to see the innovation and inventions of the O'Neill family.
Hello, I'm Albert, and I would like to welcome the British Grassland Society here to the O'Neill farm at Ballyheller, which is outside Artigarvan, County Tyrone. We are in the northwest of Northern Ireland. We operate approximately 200 cow dairy farm here, alongside my parents and my brother Wesley. We are the fourth generation of the O'Neills to farm here at Ballyheller. But the farm, my great-great-grandmother was a McFarland, and the farm has been in the McFarland family since the 1700s. So the original farm back then, going by the farm maps, was about 40 acres. And over the generations and over the years, we have now expanded that considerably. So the home farm here now has went from 40 to 160 acres. And there's a second block of land about a mile away of approximately 90 acres as well. Approximately 250 acres, and we rent 20 acres in Conacre, which is just off to the side of the main farm here, so it's pretty much one block. When I was growing up, it was very much a mixed farm. We were running dairy cows, fattening beef cattle, and we had a cereal enterprise in the farm as well. As the years went on, in the mid-90s, BSE hit the beef industry hard. We decided we'd get out of beef. Around about the same time, the arable aid had dropped from the cereal enterprise, which was making cereals less profitable. So the decision was made to concentrate more on the dairying. And since the mid-90s, we have increased dairying numbers from 60 cows to the current 200. We do get quite a bit of rainfall. We're getting approximately anywhere between 4 and 5 feet of rain in the year, which is ideal for growing grass, but it does has its struggles at certain times of the year as well. The farm is pretty much sandy clay loam. It would be renowned for its earliness. It would be a dry farm predominantly, but approximately 10% of the farm would be heavy soils. Altitude we range from about 25 feet above sea level up to 300 feet above sea level. On the farm here, my father made the decision about 20 years ago to bring crossbreeding into the dairying, and after he returned back from a trip to the Paris show, he had seen the Montbeliarde breed, and this last 20 years we have been crossbreeding with the Montbeliarde breed. We are also rearing our own replacements on farm. Yes, we will AI, we use sex semen extensively, and then we sweep up with Aberdeen Angus bulls. We've continued to grow some cereal crops, approximately 40 acres. Predominantly it has been for whole cropping, so we have been harvesting it for forage to feed to the dairy herd. Been in such a high rainfall area, it can be a real challenge to make high quality dry matter silage. The whole crop adds a bit of fibre element to the diet, and it also, we can achieve consistent dry matters with it as well. On the tour here today, you'll see a number of things, many inventions and innovations which have been created in the farm workshop. Ever since I was a young boy, I always enjoyed playing in the workshop with tools and metal, and that has become a bit of a passion, and we have created many labour-saving devices on farm. which we will see as we walk around. We operate an autumn calving system here. So winter forage is quite an important component of the diet. We are taking 4 cuts of silage. Usually the first cut's early May. This year has been delayed by a couple of weeks. We aim for a 30% dry matter crop, 12 ME plus, 15 protein plus if possible, with a 24-hour wilt. And we run the silage fields in rotation with arable, and we reseed silage fields every 5 years. Traditionally we would spread slurry mid-February, and that would be applied by a dribble bar spread with the umbilical system by a contractor with low ground pressure tyres. Fertiliser would follow soon after, early March. Fertiliser on the silage ground, we would traditionally sow can-based products with potash and sulphur, so 24-0-13 with sulphur. We haven't applied any phosphate fertiliser on silage ground now for over 10 years because there's no need for it. We can supply all the phosphate requirements via the slurry. We've been involved in several different research projects in the farm, and quite a number of years ago we were involved in a grass tissue analysis of our grasses and forages. That showing up we were deficient in sulphur and potash as well. And since applying both potash and sulphur now in extra amounts, we're seeing a massive return on investment with bigger grass yields. After silage is taken, we would traditionally spread slurry at approximately 2,500 gallons to the acre. And then research has shown best practice is to leave it a week before applying any nitrogen fertiliser. This is to help reduce the greenhouse gas effect. Also participating in the Grasscheck project in Northern Ireland alongside many other farmers, whereby we measure the grass weekly on farm from March right through to November. This year has been a very tricky year to manage grass. We've had cold springs, grass growth was very poor, and even in this last few days we've seen grass growth going from 68 kilograms of dry matter per day up to 150 within a week. So it's been very challenging. In the farm we're growing between 14 and 15 tonnes of dry matter per year. It can be seasonal, just depends what the weather patterns is. In 2018, for instance, we had a drought, and in the summer of 2018 grass growth in the middle of the summer had dipped to 1.8 kilograms of dry matter per day, and we were in a drought situation. But we picked up and we still grew 12.77 tonnes of grass that year. Grass is an extremely difficult crop to manage, and that's where grass measurement comes in. We use the plate meter weekly. It gives me the confidence to take out grass when grass growth increases beyond demand. And in fact, just in this last few days here, we have mowed down 3 paddocks just to take out of the rotation to try and maintain the grass quality and the wage again. Well, this year we have decided to add beans into the cropping rotation. We are importing soya from America, and this last winter has got very expensive. Trying to see what we can grow on farm, to see if we can insulate ourselves against price variability. Here, the Northern Ireland government has issued financial support for the growing of protein crops. I thought it was a good opportunity to explore other protein sources on farm to see what we can grow to insulate ourselves against the rising cost of soya. Having talked to a local arable farmer that has grew some beans in the past, I knew our soil would be quite suitable. So we have included just a small 3-acre field just for trial purposes this year. It's not going to make a significant dent into the feed budget for next winter, but it will act as a trial, and if successful, hopefully we may plant more beans next year again. They are a very low input crop and require no nitrogen. They will supply their own nitrogen and will also supply nitrogen for the following cereal crop afterwards. We grow clover very successfully on the farm, but we have decided to eliminate it from silage swards. It holds too much moisture, and we're finding it very difficult to wilt crops above 25% dry matter with clover present. But we are very enthusiastic about growing clover in the grazing swards, and it adds to the protein of the diet. We have different methods for applying clover. If we're doing a full reseed, we will include clover in the mixture. I have also developed a clover hopper on the slurry tanker, so we can apply clover via the slurry. That's a very low cost method. It works well. We can get good germination with it, but we have issues after. The main problem is getting it, the sward ate down tight. So if we want the clover to grow, we have to keep the grass ate down tight to get the sunlight to penetrate into the clover. We built a small hopper onto the slurry tanker, and that will hold approximately 3 to 4 kilograms of clover. As the vacuum tanker sucks in the slurry, we can slightly open a valve and allow the clover seed to slowly trickle in along with the slurry and get a reasonable mixture. A number of years now we use pre-mowing as a way of improving grass utilisation on farm. Some people see it as just cosmetic. It looks nice, but there's more to it than that. We have seen we can increase dry matter intakes into high yielding cows by mowing approximately 12 hours ahead. And we also find pre-mowing is useful for weed control, particularly in early spring. We're seeing chickweed now being a common weed on farm, and if we can pre-mow on the first rotation, we can take out the chickweed without using any herbicides. We still mow in wet weather. I have no issues with pre-mowing in wet weather. The difficulty is getting the tractor to the field. We don't like driving the tractor up mucky laneways where the dirt gets stuck to the tyres, and that can contaminate the sward. We try to use the cow lanes for the cows and public roads for accessing the paddocks for the tractor. But if the ground is suitable, it's hard enough to carry the tractor and mower, we have no issue mowing in wet weather. In the grazing swards, we prefer to use more diploid varieties, and we include clover, mostly late heading varieties. And depending on the field on the farm, some of the wetter areas will also get an inclusion of timothy in the mixture. On the silage swards, we will have a mixture of late heading diploids and tetraploids without clover. And in both situations, we will use a seed rate of 18 kilograms to the acre as opposed to the more traditional 14. With 18 kilograms, the higher seed rate, we find we're getting a thicker sward bottom. There's less competition for weeds to come through, and in general it's just a better all-round job. Traditionally we'd use the plough method for grazing swards, but on the silage swards we're in rotation with spring barley. So we'll have fields out in grass for 5 years and then 2 years of spring barley. On year 2 of spring barley, when we drill the barley before it, we will level the field and prepare it as if we were leaving it for a grass sward. After then, the spring barley is taken off for whole crop. We will go in with a set of discs and min-till the ground, and we would broadcast grass seed with a Viking sower. Or we alternatively may use a contractor with a mirror unidrill to direct drill into the stubble. To help us manage grass here on farm, particularly in wet weather and on the shoulders of the grazing season, we have constructed 1.3 miles of laneways since myself and my brother have returned home from school. We have now fitted on top of that AstroTurf. We find it's a very good choice for cows' feet. We operate 2 separate grazing rotations on farm, so we have 1 rotation for daytime grazing and we have 1 rotation for nighttime grazing. And that's largely because 1 block of land will have to cross a public road. But there's other benefits to having 2 rotations as well. To help us continue to grow high yields of grass, we have to be in behind the cows fairly soon with the fertiliser sower to maintain yields. With 2 rotations, within 48 hours of cows grazing a paddock, we can have 2 paddocks ready for the next nitrogen application, which just speeds up the fertilising programme. Stocking rate on the grazing platform, we're typically running between 5.8 and 6 cows to the hectare, which is fairly high. But if we can follow on with nitrogen behind, we can maintain that stocking rate. And with pre-mowing, we can maintain the quality in the sward quite well throughout the grazing season. Cows on the farm are currently averaging 9,300 litres per annum at 4.44 butterfat and 3.35 protein. We are working with a crossbred cow. The Montbeliarde crosses are able to sustain high yields quite well. The breeding policy is pretty much, we will pick individual cows on milk yield. If a 50-50 crossbred cow is milking well, we may breed back to Montbeliarde. If yield is down lower than what we would like, we will breed more Holstein genetics in to maintain the yield. We're quite happy with where yield is at the minute on a twice-day milking system with cows at grass all summer. But there's scope maybe to increase components. Currently, milk solids is 700 kilograms per cow per year, and that's something that through genetics over time and also feeding that we will try and make more improvements. So cows are averaging 9,300 litres and approximately 3,800 of that comes from forage. We are feeding approximately 2.45 tonnes of concentrates per cow per year, producing on average 700 kilograms of milk solids, and that's higher than the Northern Ireland average of 530. We have made a lot of advances in recent times with that, with the introduction of compact feeding. Compact feeding has been developed by a Danish nutritionist, whereby we add water to the concentrate part of the ration and soak it, and then we add the forages. To improve the concentrates and the compact feeding, we ask our supplier to put it through a grinder at the mill. This increases the surface area in which the water can absorb in much faster. The main benefit of compact feeding is that the cows are unable to sort the ration. With the cows not able to sort the ration, we have much less acidosis, and we're seeing improved yields and a big improvement in milk solids. Our winter TMR would consist approximately, in the forage element, would be 2/3 grass silage and 1/3 whole crop spring barley. And the concentrates is then, we work very closely with our local feed mill, and they develop a blend which is unique according to our forages. So the forage is at the heart of the diet, and then we complement that with what we need to balance the protein, the fibre and the energy. To help us maintain consistent dry matter in the TMR, we do our own dry matter testing on farm with a basic food dryer and a set of weigh scales We do that weekly just to keep an eye on the overall dry matter of the ration. With the Montbeliarde crossbreds, one of the downsides can be teat placement. So teat placement is very important. Temperament can be also a negative with the Montbeliarde. Sex semen, we use sex semen extensively on farm, both on heifers and cows. We have very good success rates of using sex semen with cows. We have to keep good records, particularly of calving difficulties and any follow-up diseases such as metritis or that will lower conception rates. So we won't use sex semen in those incidents. We will perhaps use a beef bull instead. Replacement rate on farm for a number of years was 18%. It has recently risen to 20%. We have discovered a mineral deficiency on farm with the cows. We're hoping now we have turned the tide in that. We will be able to reach or pass targets again fairly soon. Predominantly autumn-winter calving here, and we rear the calves here as you see behind me, and individual pens for the first few days, just so we can monitor calves more closely. Once they're confident and drinking milk from a teat bucket, they will then be transferred here to the automatic calf feeder. And they will remain on here for approximately 60 days. And then they will be weaned off and cubicle trained then in another house. Calves on the feeder here, we will start feeding them concentrates and also a small amount of TMR from the cow's ration to help get the rumen going. Then when those calves will be going to grass in early spring, and they will receive additional concentrates, approximately 1 to 2 kilograms per day, and they will be grazed throughout the summer, rehoused in the autumn, get all their vaccination shots and preparation for AI. Once we have those heifers AI'd and PD'd in calf, they will then return out to grass for their second summer. They won't receive any concentrates at all, and they will be just monitored over the summer. We artificial inseminate the heifers based on natural heats, and we use heat time collars on them, which have been great to try and pinpoint the most accurate time for insemination. We sweep up heifers with an Aberdeen Angus bull. Foil meats have a bonus scheme for Aberdeen Angus stock. There's big demand locally for dropped calves, so any beef animals are sold off the farm as soon as, and we only concentrate on rearing our own replacements. Central to all the cattle on farm here is forage. Good quality forage is the heart of their diet, and it's also the heart of profitability. On farm, as you walk around, you will see many inventions. Some are from a safety point of view, some are born out of a labour point of view, and many are tied to profitability as well, to improve performance of the herd. When we first started TMR feeding, we were having to constantly push up feed to cows, which was a daily chore. We then opted to build concrete troughs for the TMR so the cows couldn't nudge it out. Then that created a second problem of cleaning out troughs. So I came up with the idea of making a trough scraper for the front of the JCB. Initially it was used just to scrape out any waste refusals. But now we use it as part of the fire management with the TMR feeding. So we typically will feed the TMR to the cows for approximately 5 to 10% more than what they can consume. And then we sweep that out several times a week. And we find that that improves milk yield by 0.75 litres a cow per day. The refusals that's scraped out is then still palatable enough to be included into dry cow or heifer rations. To reduce time in adding the water to the TMR for compact feeding, we kitted out a water tank with a remote control operated pump. We can add a large volume of water into the diet feeder in less than 2 minutes without getting off the seat. We place a high importance of animal welfare and cleanliness, and to help us achieve that, we adapted a mobility scooter onto our sawdust spreader. It just made the job so much easier when you can do it from the seat. I think water is the unforgotten nutrient in a lot of dairy farms. Cows need large amounts of clean, palatable water if they're going to produce large volumes of milk. We are very good at keeping water troughs in the cow sheds clean throughout the winter. Like most farmers now, they have tip-over drinkers and all sorts of methods for emptying and cleaning out the drinkers. But I felt we were lacking the same attention when it come to grazing, and I wanted a more suitable way for cleaning water troughs out in field. So we'll come up with the concept of adding a water pump to the back of the mower, and as we pre-mow the paddocks in rotation, when we're finished, we just simply pull up beside the water trough, drop a pipe in, and we suck the water up, and it's disposed of through a delivery hose, which is approximately about 10 metres away. This results that there's no water pooling around the water trough if we were to empty it with a bung. So the water's directed away, maybe to the adjacent field or laneway if possible. That's just resulted in cows having always clean water in front of them, which is a vital. As I've said, we have constructed approximately 1.3 miles of laneways throughout the farm. A lot of that was done by another machine I made, which was a lane grader. We find it's very important to get the camber of the lane right, to get runoff directed away from the lane and onto the field. If I was making a new laneway, I try and have it on the south side of a hedge. This greatly helps having the sun to hit it to dry out between milkings. North-facing laneways tend to be very mucky, something we try to avoid. The lane grader has been a great tool in helping to achieve a good level surface, good level laneway with a camber to either one side or both sides. And if we can source it, then we will place AstroTurf on top. The preferred method is to do AstroTurf across the full width of the laneway. We have done some laneways with just a strip up the middle. We find both sides of the laneway tend to get mucky, and sharp stones can be pulled onto the AstroTurf, which can be detrimental to cows' feet. So my advice is to put AstroTurf down the full width of the laneway. Covering a silage pit, it's always one of the jobs that everyone hates on farm, but it's also one of the most important to try and get good quality forage. A few years ago, we switched from car tyres to lorry sidewalls for covering the pit, which has been great, but it's still quite labour intensive as well. So we come up with the idea of making an attachment for the JCB that would try and reduce the labour involved in that. It has worked really well. Cattle handling facilities on farm was very poor for a long time, and it got to the stage every time we put a batch of cattle through it, we had to follow up with the welder. So we looked long and hard of developing new handling facilities on farm, and what features we would like to incorporate into that. We wanted to put safety top of the list. There's just too many accidents happening on farm with working with cattle nowadays. Future plans for the farm, in the near future we hope to start construction of a new rotary milking parlour. We have no big plans to expand the herd. Land is at a premium here. We have to work within environmental constraints. We are also involved in the Beacon Farm network. One of the things which we will be looking very closely is establishing our carbon footprint on farm and looking at innovative ways to how to reduce that going forward. While agriculture remains challenging going forward, I'm confident that our current farming system is sustainable, having grass at the heart of it, and I'm confident there's a future here for the next generation. We hope you enjoyed the virtual tour around the farm, and I'm happy to take any questions that you may have.